My last delivery for Leonardo's Pizzeria was supposed to be simple. It was 2009. My boss, Frank, handed me a slip of paper with an address. No GPS back then, just a flip phone and a worn-out map book that was practically useless in the dark. The order was for a place on Willows Road, way out in the sticks. The roads were a maze of darkness, surrounded by nothing but woods and the occasional field. I must have pulled over 3 times. The car's interior light blinding me as I frantically traced roads with my finger, completely lost. Finally, I called the number. It rang and rang. Just as I was about to hang up, a man answered. No greeting. Hello, I said. A low, soft voice echoed mine. Hello. It's the pizza guy. I can't find your place. He explained in a slow, deadpan monotone that his driveway was just a dirt trail, easy to miss. I finally spotted a narrow gap in the trees. I turned in and drove slowly up the path for what felt like a minute until a small, one-story house emerged from the shadows. A single window glowed with a dim, orange light. An old, beat-up pickup truck was the only other vehicle. I grabbed the 2 pizza boxes and walked to the front door. I knocked. From inside, I heard faint, scratchy music that sounded like it was from another century. The door creaked open a few inches. A single eye stared out at me from the darkness. You ordered the pizza? I asked, my voice tighter than I meant it to be. Oh yes, the pizza, the man said, his voice a familiar, soft monotone. Let me get your money. He disappeared, leaving the door ajar. Then, it began to slowly swing open on its own, revealing a living room frozen in time. The furniture was ancient. Metal sheets were laid over parts of the floor. That old music was coming from a vintage record player with a big horn. And the smell, it was a thick, rotten smell that made my stomach turn. I waited on the porch, the silence stretching out. Sir, I finally called out. His voice floated from deeper in the house. Yes, would you mind coming into the kitchen, please? Every instinct told me to run. Can you repeat that? I stammered. Can you come to the kitchen, please? Hesitantly, I stepped inside. The floor felt spongy, like it might give way. To my left was a narrow hallway. At the far end, a man with his back to me was swaying to the music in a way that wasn't right. He was slowly running his hands over his own arms and torso, a grotesque, intimate dance. I jerked my head toward the kitchen, and that's when I saw him again. First man. He was peering around the kitchen doorway, only a sliver of his face visible. That one eye locked on me. The cash, I managed to say, holding up the pizzas like a shield. He didn't speak. Instead, he let out a low, soft giggle that was utterly wrong. Then he barked a single word. His voice suddenly loud and sharp. Randall. That was my breaking point. I turned and walked quickly back to the door, my skin crawling as I passed the hallway. I saw the dancing man had stopped. He was now completely still, facing me, just watching. I didn't run until I was in my car. I threw the pizzas onto the passenger seat and fumbled with the keys. As I reversed, my headlights swept across the house. The front door was wide open again, a black rectangle inviting me back. I didn't stop shaking until I was back on the main road. I called Frank and told him everything. He wasn't mad. Back at the shop, the guys laughed it off. I know it sounds like a funny story, but it wasn't. It was a warning. I still see that single, watching eye in my dreams, and I never accepted another late-night delivery again. I was 19, working as a bike delivery guy for Jimmy John's in Newark, Delaware, most of the year. Newark is a sleepy little town, but come fall and spring, the University of Delaware students flood back in, and the place completely transforms. It's a big party school, so quiet nights become a thing of the past. My job put me right in the middle of it. I worked the late shift, 7 p.m. to 2 a.m., which was prime time for drunk food orders. This all went down on a random weeknight in late spring. Either April or May, We stayed open until 2 a.m. on weekdays, meaning after the bars started closing. Our little sandwich shop became ground zero for the after-party crowd. It was pure chaos. The orders poured in, and deliveries lit up the board one after another. It was a grind, for sure, but the tips were great, so I never complained too much. On this particular night, the clock was ticking towards 2 a.m. The sweet moment I could finally go home. My legs were burning, and all I could think about was my bed. Then, of course, with just minutes left, one last delivery ticket printed, and it was my turn. I groaned. Every fiber of my being wanted to just pass it off, but I had no choice. I grabbed the bag. Feeling seriously pissed off, I knew the street, so at least I wouldn't be fumbling with a map. We used bikes because weaving through drunk students and packed side streets was way faster than sitting in a car. I pushed myself, wanting to get this over with, and made it to the address in record time. I hopped off my bike and banged on the front door. Nothing, just dead silence from inside. I waited a beat, then hammered on it again, louder this time, still nothing. My frustration was boiling over. If this idiot didn't answer, I'd have to ride all the way back with the food. A complete waste of my last half hour. I pulled out my phone and called the number on the receipt. It rang and rang, then went to voicemail. Fantastic. Just as I was about to call my manager, a sound cut through the quiet street, a distinct rustle from a thicket of bushes in the yard across from me. My first thought was a raccoon or something, but it sounded heavier. I scanned the darkness, and then I saw it. My stomach dropped like a stone. It was a person, a dark silhouette crouched low behind the foliage. I couldn't make out a single feature, but there was no doubt in my mind he was perfectly still, and he was staring right at me. The feeling was primal, a cold dread that washed over me instantly. My heart started pounding, a frantic drum against my ribs. I tried to keep my cool, pretending I hadn't seen him. Maybe he wouldn't do anything if he thought he was still hidden. I turned back to the door and started knocking again, not just loudly, but with a desperate rhythm. My mind was racing. Was this a setup? Was he waiting for me to be isolated? I risked a quick glance over my shoulder. He hadn't moved an inch. Still a dark lump in the shadows, watching. That was it. I just started wailing on the door, not caring about waking anyone up. It felt like an eternity. But finally, a light flicked on inside. The door creaked open, and a disheveled-looking guy squinted out at me, clearly pissed off. "The hell do you want?" he grumbled. I explained the order, and he just shook his head. "Not me, must be my roommate," to my horror. He then added that the guy who ordered was passed out drunk upstairs. As the roommate disappeared upstairs, leaving me alone on the porch, I heard another sound from across the street, a scrape. I snapped my head around. The figure had moved, creeping out from behind the bushes, now partially visible under a distant streetlight. My fear cranked up to a whole new level. I had the insane urge to just bolt inside the house and slam the door. But my bike-me job was sitting right there. And what if this guy was armed? Following me inside would just put these two drunk college kids in the line of fire. Thankfully, the roommate was back in less than a minute. His door's locked. He's dead to the world at this point. I didn't care about the money or the rules. "Look, man, just sign for it, please," I said, my voice tight. He hesitated, probably because there was no tip on the card. A tip was the absolute last thing on my mind. I practically shoved the receipt and pen into his hands, insisting until he finally signed. I thrust the food bag at him, mumbled a thank you, and didn't wait for the door to fully close before I sprinted to my bike. I threw my leg over the frame, my hands fumbling with the handlebars. Just as I kicked the stand up, a loud crash of branches shattering the silence made me whip my head to the left. He was coming. The figure had exploded from the shadows and was now in a full-blown sprint. Straight at me. In the dim light, I could make out jeans, boots, and a black hoodie pulled tight. His face was covered by some kind of mask, leaving only his eyes visible, and in one hand, something caught the light. I swear it was a knife. Panic seized me. I couldn't turn around. He'd be on me too fast. The surrounding streets were all dead ends. My only escape was a narrow, unlit bike trail cutting through the woods nearby. It was pitch black, but it was my only shot. I slammed my feet on the pedals and launched myself forward, my bike tires screaming on the pavement as I swerved onto the trail. The world disappeared into total blackness. Adrenaline was pumping through me so hard, I couldn't feel the burn in my legs. I just pedaled, my head on a swivel, listening for the sound of footsteps pounding on the dirt behind me. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, sent a jolt of terror through me. The trail wasn't long, and I knew every twist and turn by feel. But it was the most terrifying ride of my life. I burst out of the woods and didn't slow down until the bright lights of Jimmy John's were in sight. I practically fell off my bike at the door and stumbled inside, hyperventilating, trying to suck in air. My coworkers looked at me, but I couldn't form words. What would I even tell them, or the cops? A guy in a hoodie chased me. I didn't get a good enough look, so I said nothing. I just grabbed my stuff, clocked out, and loaded my bike into my car. Thanking God I hadn't biked to work that night. The drive home was a blur of paranoia. I kept checking my rear view mirror, expecting to see headlights gaining on me, but the road stayed empty. I made it home, locked the door, and that was it. I never saw him again. You'll never know if he just wanted to rob me or if he had something worse in mind. That was the last late-night shift I ever worked. Now, whenever I have to work after dark, I carry nunchucks with me. It might sound stupid, but I won't be caught helpless again. Newark is supposed to be a safe town, but that night taught me a hard lesson. Safety is an illusion. Danger doesn't care what town you're in. It can find you anywhere, anytime. I was hustling for Uber Eats, trying to chip away at my student loans. Living with my parents helped, but I was still broke, so I took any late-night delivery I could get. The pay was better after midnight, less traffic, more cash. This one particular night, I picked up some fast food in Wilmington, North Carolina, for a house about 20 minutes out of town. The GPS started taking me away from the city lights, out past the suburbs and into the quiet, dark part of the county full of forests and farmland. The main road was empty, but when I turned onto the customer's street, it was a whole new level of dark. It was a dead-end road, and the GPS led me to the very last house. Every single house on the street was pitch black, including my destination. I had to leave my high beams on just to see the driveway, and even then, I used my phone's flashlight to pick my way to the porch. Feeling overgrown grass brush against my shins, the place felt abandoned. This didn't feel right at all. I pressed the doorbell, but there was no sound. I knocked hard. The customer had selected contact delivery, meaning I had to physically hand them the food. I pulled out my phone and messaged them through the app. "I am at your front door." A reply came instantly. "Give me a second." I stood there in the suffocating darkness, my eyes glued to the black windows, waiting for a light to flicker on. Nothing. There's no way this is the right house, I thought. I messaged again. "Can you confirm your address for me?" The app showed he was typing, but it took forever. Then the message came through, and a chill went straight down my spine. "I see you, you're at the right house." My blood ran cold. I scanned the property. There were no cars in the driveway, no sign of life anywhere. This was wrong. My hands were shaking as I typed back. "What kind of car do you see?" The reply was quick. "I see your light." That confirmed I was where they wanted me, but it did nothing to calm my nerves. I started backing away from the porch, not wanting to be right there when the door opened, but it never did. I was about to mark the order as undeliverable, thinking it was just a scam for free food. when a man's voice cut through the silence from somewhere out in the darkness. "Over here." I whipped my phone around, the flashlight beam cutting wildly through the trees, but I saw nothing. My heart was hammering against my ribs. "I am leaving the food on the front porch," I yelled to the empty darkness. I turned and walked, trying my best not to run, back toward the safety of my car. That's when I heard IDA's sharp, hissing sound. CS. I knew that sound instantly, a slashed tire. I aimed my light down and saw its front left tire was completely flat, the rubber sagging on the rim. A quick look confirmed the back one was gone too. I scrambled into the driver's seat and locked the doors. On the dashboard, the low-pressure warnings for all 4 tires were lit up. Panic started to set in. My mind raced. Do I call 911 and wait here like a sitting duck? Or do I make a run for it into the woods? I decided to run. I killed the headlights to make it harder for them to see me leave. And just as the world plunged into total darkness, they were there. A figure was standing right outside my driver's side window. I let out a scream that felt like it tore my throat out. Then I saw the others. There were 4 of them, 1 at each window, all wearing masks, completely surrounding me. I was trapped. One of them banged on the glass. "Get out of the car, now." I didn't know if they were armed, but I knew trying to drive on 4 flat tires would be suicide. "Are you just going to rob me?" I yelled through the window, my voice cracking. One of them nodded. "Give us everything and we'll let you go." I unlocked the door in a split second. It was ripped open and a hand grabbed my jacket, yanking me out onto the gravel. Fists and feet hit me from all sides. It was a chaotic blur of pain. They ripped my smartwatch off my wrist, pulled my phone and wallet from my pockets, and even took my shoes after they'd taken everything from me. They rifled through my glove compartment, then vanished back into the darkness as quickly as they appeared, taking my car keys with them. I was left beaten and alone on the ground. The next thing I knew, I was waking up, the side of my face pressed into the damp grass. I must have been out for a half hour. Every part of my body ached. I struggled to my feet and saw a single point of light far down the road. Back toward the main highway, I stumbled toward it. It was a small house. I hammered on the door until a woman answered from inside. I told her I'd been robbed and needed to use a phone. She let me in, and I called the police. Roadside assistance for my car, and finally, my dad. The cops came and took my statement, but there wasn't much to go on. My dad picked me up after the tow truck hauled my car away. The police eventually traced the Uber Eats account to some guy named Logan, who claimed his phone and wallet had been stolen. The people who did this to me just disappeared. The house was vacant, a perfect spot for an ambush. Insurance covered the tires, but I ate the cost of everything else. It was an expensive, painful lesson. Never, ever ignore that feeling when something just isn't right. I didn't do another delivery for months, and when I finally did, it was in broad daylight only.